public hearing, agenda item C1. And we'll open the public hearing at 11:17.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Galen Norwood, Assistant Director of Planning and Building Services. This is rezone initial study and general plan amendment 2013-041 for the Pearl Irrevocable Trust, Marion Pearl Irrevocable Trust. The project site is located at 739-200 Furlong Access Road, 3 miles northeast of the intersection of Highway 395 and Furlong. JPN is 139-060-33. The existing zoning is A2B10 PSA, agricultural residential, 10-acre building site combining district and public safety airport combining district. The proposed zoning is CT PSA, which is town center, public safety airport combining district. And they're proposing to change the general plan designation from rural residential to town center. The environmental review officer has prepared a negative declaration, which is on page 30 of your packet for consideration. And the authority for this application is Government Code Section 18.1, County Code Chapter 18.124.020, and then Government Code Section 65300. It's a proposal to rezone, as we said. The uses that would be allowed in the rezone are listed in 1834.030 as the uses by right. The PSA district would carry forward on the proposed zoning district, and the existing, the same as the existing district has. In the staff report, there are a couple maps which kind of show where the PSA combining district is. On page 16, the hash mark is the PSA combining district, and then on the following page are the safety areas of the airport. It was recommended to be approved by the Planning Commission. A resolution making that recommendation is in the packet on page 7. The lone vote against was Commissioner Solomon, who opined that because there was because there was town service zoning in Furlong proper, that it wasn't necessary to rezone this to PSA. And I have some graphics. I have some maps up on the slide I can pull up if you'd like me to.
Would the board like to?
Yeah, if you could, if you would mind, I'd like to know where the other town center property is, how far this would be moved from that. And also where the airport is.
Yeah, Galen, how far the airport is quite a ways from there?
It's about
2,100.
2,100 feet.
Yeah.
That's what it says in there.
Yeah.
That one is.
Because this one has, their lens is messed up too.
It's warm enough. Did you already focus in position here?
Not yet. Looks pretty good. Doesn't see the bottom part there.
Yeah, just a.
Okay, so let me run through what we have. We also have Google Earth up here. We can pull that up as well. So the you can see the.
I think it's right here, and it is, and there you are, sir. Got that? There's a button on there somewhere.
So here's the project site. The airport is here. Furlong proper is over here. So does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Where's the airport?
where's the airport?
Right here.
Right there.
Yeah.
And where is the other town, the town center district at? Where's the edges of it?
I don't know precisely. There's town center, over in Furlong. I couldn't. I don't have that information available to tell you precisely which parcel, but there are other parcels that are zoned town center.
And where's the prison at, just from my own reference?
Where is it going to be? Someone help me.
It's still a light, you keep going, you're off the map.
Oh, off the map, okay.
The federal
Oh,
bridge?
yeah, I am, okay.
No, that's 395 running.
Yeah, that's 395.
Yeah, that's 395, that's
It's to the
825.
left of the project site.
It's
That's it up there, okay.
The federal
Off,
bridge.
I think it's off,
it's off the map, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
No.
just off
I
the,
can't see it.
in the right-hand corner
No, it's the
there.
town of Hurlong's to the right.
I should
This
have
one
brought
is
my
slightly,
picture.
That's a little bit further, because that,
We have another graphic, maybe we, let's see what we
you know, it's right there.
Okay. And,
It's that one.
Do you want
Wanna
to
go back?
go to Google?
yeah.
This is the one picture I left, because I didn't think you'd question that.
So what?
This is the one picture I left from Google Earth, is where the prison is.
Okay, so,
What is the untitled place mark
that
represent?
is the project site.
And the roadway that pin is
You
adjacent
want me
to?
to-
Furlong access road.
The, what, northern access road?
Yeah.
Okay. Which is what, 825?
This is the prison right here. This is H.
There you go, there you go.
It's right
And there's the airport.
So Maurice brought up Google Earth, which kind of shows the prison and the project site.
This is the junction of, this is A.
825, you say?
there. Where this comes in.
So
Prison's right across the street, but-
it's approximately halfway to Hurlong, right past Long Valley.
Is there any further questions?
What do you guys?
Yeah, we gotta figure out what.
So the town center stuff is in Hurlong, there's no town center in West Baton Village?
I don't believe so, but I can confirm that if you'd like me to, but I'd have to, we're not serious, but I don't think so. Maureen?
Yeah, I don't recall what Patton Village is, but just beyond that is where the commercial zoning starts.
Beyond what, towards the Army
Beyond West
Depot?
Patton Village, yeah,
Towards the Army Depot,
yeah,
where the
towards-
cell tower is and all that,
right.
right.
Okay. So is it common to have town center parcels clear out way away from the town center?
No.
Well, it isn't, it happens for sure. There are parcels that are around that are designated town center that are separated.
But generally speaking,
Generally it's part of town center and it's, you know, the communities, around the communities.
so for example, Doyle, Ravendale, Troma, Little Valley, areas like that where there's a hamlet, those are considered town centers and designated on our general plan map. So this would be a departure from the norm.
And this would be, the proposal is that it would be town center for this parcel and this parcel only?
Correct.
Surrounded by what other zoning?
A1 to the north and agricultural residential, the other east, west, and south. This parcel, like ag residential, the CT zoning also allows ag and residential use by right, so they share some similarities, but of course the commercial uses are different.
So Galen, the, so the general plan amendment, how many are we allowed to?
Allowed 4-year is the maximum number of general plan amendments. You know, there are jurisdictions that group those together and may have more than one applicant in a particular element, but you're only allowed, however you slice it, you're allowed the 4 hearings, or the 4 projects.
Is it the fiscal year, calendar year, what is it?
calendar year.
Okay,
We're certainly under that.
right. So how many have we had in the last 10 years?
I don't have that number.
Very few.
I would, probably, maybe 5 would be my guess.
So it's not like we're gonna run out of amendment.
I don't think you get to keep them if you don't use them. I think it's use them or lose them.
I thought we had 40 or 50 stacked up.
We haven't used it, but the only caution would be is if we send a signal that, you can build a mini storage in an ag zone just by coming and getting a general plan amendment rezone, we may see a flurry of them.
That point's well taken, at least from.
Where this is located though, there's not much use for that, other than.
So to have the storage, it has to be town center, is that, I mean,
Yeah,
There are other zoning districts that you could have a mini storage in, but is ag 1, that's not one of them, what it currently is not.
Yeah, the ag residential is what the current zoning is, and no, that doesn't allow mini storage. This particular district was, I think, attractive to the applicant because it allows it by right. So if the rezone is successful, then the mini storage that they're wanting is allowed by right. But of course, that brings, there are other uses in the CT district as well, and those would potentially be allowed if the project was approved.
What are the other uses?
You want me to read them or summarize?
Uses
You can actually,
permitted
just
by,
hand me that. and I
it
can
should be
read
in
it
your
real
packet.
quick.
by right.
Yeah.
Is there a page number reference?
I don't know, no, I don't know offhand. I didn't flag it,
Okay.
but I can read it. It's, make copies if you want me to, or whatever you'd like me to do. It's retail stores and shops of a light commercial character conducted within a building, including but not limited to appliance stores, banks, barbershops, bars, taverns, brew pubs, beauty parlors, bookstores, self-service laundromats, laundry and dry cleaning operations, dress shops, drug stores, food stores, furniture shops, hardware stores, millinery shops,
That's why. they
mini
want it.
storage warehouses, professional offices, pet shops, radio sales, restaurants, refreshment stands, shoe shops, storage garages, studios, and tailor shops, and other uses which are of similar character to those enumerated, and which will not be detrimental or obnoxious to the neighborhood in which they are located. Number 2, repair shops, car shops, feed stores, single-family residence, ceramics, flight, tying, gunsmithing, and other handcrafts of a light manufacturing character when used in conjunction with a retail business and when conducted and confined within a building. Retail or wholesale nursery or florist, including landscaping yards when accessory to a nursery in your operation. Shopping centers, agricultural uses, but not including commercial hog, poultry, or fish farms, stockyards or feedlots. 10, mini storage warehouses. 11, heavy equipment and farm equipment rental, service and sales. 12, kennels provided at the parcel is 5 acres or more in size. 13, automobile sales. 14, daycare facilities. 15, emergency shelters. 16, transitional housing. 17, supportive housing.
Those are all uses permitted by right.
Those are uses permitted by right.
And that included kennels as well?
Yes, parcels 5 acres.
Is this over 5?
Yes,
10 acres.
does that answer?
And are there houses on both sides?
One house. And those people are aware of this activity, but I don't know if they're aware of the town center thing.
so would this fall under the area of the airport commission?
Yes, it would. So what that would mean that is if the project came to the planning counter, we'd have to refer it to the Airport Land Use Commission staff, which is us. We would look at it and see if it was compatible with the existing plan. If it were, then we could approve it at the staff level, whatever project it may be. And then if it weren't, then we would refer it to the Airport Land Use Commission for evaluation. But the plan, it's primarily a density of people,
Yeah.
not wanting to get a lot of people grouped together at one time is one of the main considerations of the public safety airport combining district.
How many units is for the mini storage or
The mini storage is not part of this project. This is a rezone application. The mini storage would be allowed by right, so they would have to submit a building permit application. So I don't have that information.
I thought that had already been,
I'm sorry?
I thought they applied for that.
Well, there was a couple iterations that their application went through, and it ended up that they've applied for a rezone, a general plan amendment, as their project. The rezone allows mini storage by right, therefore, we're looking at the zoning district as a whole, not just for the mini storage.
So, so some of the other ways, I guess, the mini storage keeps coming up, so that's the reason for the rezoning, so they can do that?
Well, that's what the applicant has stated that, and that's, again, that's a use that's allowed by right in that district.
So there's
It's
other
certainly
ways
part
to
of the
achieve
review.
that, just that it'd be by use permit?
I'm sorry?
There's other ways to achieve having a mini storage, but it would require a use permit?
I guess the question is, can you, in the zone that it's currently zoned, acquire, can you use it for mini storage by conditional use permit?
No, no, it's not eligible for a use permit in the A2 district.
So what are the other zones that you could do?
I don't know all of them offhand. CR, I would think. I can go grab a zoning book if you'd like to know more precisely.
General ag. stuff like that.
Maybe C1, C2. General ag wouldn't be,
Commercial zones.
yeah, it'd be commercial zones.
That would permit a mini storage essentially by right?
I don't know if
Or
all
permit.
of those
Or
are by right
Okay.
necessarily. I'd have to, if you wanted that level of certainty, I'd have to go.
Okay, fair enough. But would allow that use probably in some fashion, either by right or
And
permit.
for whatever reason, this was the district that made the most sense to the applicant to come forward and ask to be in this district in order to do what they wanted to do.
Do you know if they acquired the parcel for the express purpose of constructing the mini storage? Or if they had it already?
How they acquired the parcel.
Banked on the rezone?
One of the guys there bought up a bunch of property around there. And I don't know specifically what his agenda is. I assumed it was just a mini
September
storage.
24th, 2009 is when they.
It seems like it offers, well, it would, mean that, like you said, by right, there's a heck of a lot of stuff, and I guess the question is that all good uses, so that's about a little over a quarter mile away from the airport, a third of a mile, so I don't know.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
May I make a comment?
Sure.
The PSA combined district carries forth on both of those. So even though there are a lot of things that are allowed by right, I wouldn't say that they would necessarily be able to get to all of them. There are some uses that would bring a lot of people together there that might not be able to make it past the PSA district. So that is a consideration there too.
What about the mini storage itself?
I don't see any problems with the mini storage. I mean, it's not, you're not grouping a lot of people, as far as the zoning, as far as the, in the PSA,
Right.
as far as that part of it, there's not a big group of people, that's what it's kind of looking for. It allows, under certain circumstances, it allows the airport land use, allows those uses, so if the findings can be made. So if the proper findings could be made for public safety, it could be certainly be allowed.
Define the terminology of a big group of people.
Yeah.
Well, actually, in the
20,
in
40,
the airport
80?
land use document, it does talk about schools,
Right.
churches, those sorts of things are patently inconsistent with some of the zones.
Right.
And the staff
Also
would go
high
to
traffic.
the commission, and it would be
High traffic.
reviewed by the commission. We're going to be pretty conservative in our analysis and let the commission do what they're able to do, or wanting to do.
It was purchased by a corporation.
Nobody here is protesting.
I think politically, the only risk is that if you allow this general plan amendment, it's hard to deny others in the neighborhood if somebody comes forward. So if this is the general plan amendment that we want to make and change what our general plan is, maybe we want to follow this action up by changing the general plan for that entire area, if that's what we envision for that area.
Well, I mean, this would definitely allow for some commerce to take place out there, which is good, not a bad thing, but,
It's a good thing, it'd be nice to see, but I think we can do this a little more appropriately, what, rather than, there's other property out there that's not, there's flyways on closer to the town. So, I can see some problems with it. I mean, I don't see, was he asleep? I would say the 10 years period, everybody showed up at once to put stuff in there, take stuff out. That might get that. Of course, that's the potential for the lien sale of the storage units, which could bring a big bunch of people together for the lien sale out there. I mean, there's all those little things that could come into play.
You mean storage wars?
Yeah.
So,
Like the TV show.
what kind of conversations have you had with this guy, Kenny?
I haven't had any conversations with him.
Okay.
Our prior senior
anybody-
planner was the project manager for this, and I picked it up to carry it across the finish line.
Well, we'll see. But if I may chime in, as the planning director, I will say that I'm not enamored with this project for the reasons that Mr. Egan stated. It does kind of represent leapfrog, spot zoning, and it doesn't appeal to me as a planner per se. Now, having said that, Furlong's a little bit different, and I think Richard brought up a great point. If we want development along that corridor, then we should address that comprehensively and say that's okay. And if you do decide to approve this rezone today, I may be a finding that this is not typical for Lassen County, some kind of finding that supports this being different than perhaps other applications that might occur in the future by nature of its location and the use that it gets with the base and something like that. And I'm sure if you decide to approve it again, we can work through a finding for you.
And how many amendments have we got to the general plan this year?
This year,
Let's go first.
First,
Actually,
three.
the housing
I think
element.
the housing element is I think it counts.
I mean, obviously,
It may
if you
not
are
count, though.
beating our door down to make amendments to the general plan, and I'm not sure. I haven't heard a good reason yet to turn the man down. I mean, if
Well,
he
yeah.
owns the property, he wants to rezone it, and why wouldn't we, as his right as private property owner, and within the zoning that's appropriate, let him do it?
Well, I'm not going to argue with you. I wouldn't say it's a right to have it rezoned to something of a higher use. That's the privilege of the board to make that decision.
Well, exactly, I mean, as far as legislative branch of government, yeah, that is our right, but I mean, I'm trying to picture in my mind exactly where this is and reading the right and stuff. I'm trying to think what's out there that we wouldn't want to do it, and obviously if we did want it, the whole area rezoned, why haven't we done that already? Obviously we haven't, there's not a need, and somebody's asking for it, says, hey, I got a need now, I want to do it.
Well, about 8 years ago, maybe a little longer, you did do a comprehensive rezoning, but it was Furlong property and some places adjacent to it. And this was just outside of that bubble.
Right, but I mean, obviously, in that area, there's nothing there that I can think of to prevent somebody from establishing a business.
And I think what I hear you saying is that Furlong in this access is different than your average place. I mean, I
On this
wouldn't,
particular part anyhow, at least, yeah, I wouldn't want to say Furlong, that general, but it's part of the community. I'm trying to think why it wouldn't be. I mean, Tom can answer that better than anybody, because he's out there all the time, I'm not.
Well, if I might chime in, the county, through the general plan, made a decision years ago that this property should be used for ag residential property. And.
But I don't mean
and-
to interrupt, but how many years ago was that?
That was 99.
99. I mean,
15 years ago.
obviously, things change in time, and that's why general plans are updated.
And if things have changed, I guess what I would suggest is let's not just do an island, and maybe we could do this in sequence, but if we're gonna make this island rezone, I think we need to review the entire area. And if it's appropriate to zone this parcel town center, then certainly there's other areas out there that are very similar in nature that we may wanna consider. But I'm just a little bit concerned about zoning one parcel as an island in the town zoning, surrounded by residents, surrounded by residents.
I'd like to take, can we table this
Certainly.
I'd like to speak with these guys.
You're not here today.
Yeah,
They're not
Well, and I just,
The applicants.
yeah.
I'm gonna
I'd like
speak
to just
anyway.
add too that,
I'm gonna speak anyway.
what Richard said is really important, that if we want to do different things in different areas, that's fine, but we should address it comprehensively, because what ends up happening is Galen's doing an initial study, the environmental document, he's trying to help people understand what the process is and what we guard against making odds, but if you have all these planning documents that say ag residential, and then somebody can just come in and change it, then we as a county aren't giving the information out to the citizens that what they can do and where they can do it. It's not accurate. And so then, if that's true, then what Richard said is right. We need to update our plans, because that's what people come in and look at to try to decide whether or not to move forward on projects.
Yeah, but Maury, if these guys want to get this done, and I don't know if they do, I haven't had any direct contact with them, then we have to go through this whole revision process, which will be,
Right.
No, that's not what I'm suggesting at all.
Oh.
I'm just saying, if we do a general plan amendment for this parcel,
I get that.
then
I
I
get
think
that.
it brings up the question, why is everything around it still zoned ag one? And we should revisit that issue soon, but I don't think that you have to wait for one to do the other.
Right.
Does that make sense?
You know,
Did to me.
one other question, how is that zone where the market, the town store? Like, it's a-
He has a commercial zone, it's one of the more unusual ones, it allows for hotel and something else, it's a very narrow commercial zone.
Yeah,
So
the
it's
store-
commercial, it's not town center.
no,
No.
it's not town center.
It's got its own zoning, that's commercial.
And some avenue original plan designation as well. But presumably a different general plan designation as well. I don't know that for sure.
And the only other comment I had in here is here again, Fish and Game and all their infinite wisdom. You know, list plant species that could potentially occur at the project. So it's the same thing as the Northern wolf. I mean, you can go out there and farm that, put the fertilizer down and get rid of the plants you want to grow out there. As far as that goes, it's just stupid.
We made a finding at the planning commission
And I'm
level.
very proud of you guys for doing that. Thank you.
Well, it ain't over yet,
So,
but thanks.
Richard, what's your suggestion? You know, because I want some growth and stuff down there, but I want it responsibly. And,
I'm hesitant to make a specific recommendation today. My hunch is that there's plenty of land down there with plenty of zoning for this type of activity. That's not restricting what's going on there, the available land. However, if it's the desire of the community and the board to rezone that whole area, town zoning, then I don't think that's really gonna stimulate a lot of growth, but there may be one landowner down there that has land that they wanna do something with if they can.
And this is true, I mean, you have all the property that's zoned commercially and available. I think this just represents somebody who owns this and wants
Right,
something, so it's
absolutely.
a departure, but I agree with Richard, I don't know that there's, if there was a great need for commercial businesses, there's room to do it, and there's buildings to do it.
With those kind of concerns expressed, the competing concern, of course, is that you create this island and the precedential effect that has on, applications and the like. And maybe it's something that should be tabled to see
That's what I
what
would like
these
to do.
folks, if they have
Intentions
alternatives
are.
available to them.
Right,
Because once you change that zone,
that's it.
then if they convey title later, somebody who acquires title to that, and that could be next week for all we know, could come in and use, within that one parcel, they could use it for any of the uses depicted by, or stated by Mr. Norwood. And, mini storage isn't very offensive, I think, to the senses, but there's a whole bunch of other uses in there that could be inconsistent with what's around it.
And this isn't just setting the precedent for the Hurlong area. I mean, you
Correct.
got Doyle, you got Westford, you got Litchfield, Standish, Ravendale, Big Valley, Pitville, Little Valley. I mean,
But that's not to say that I don't think anybody here from, at least from council's office, from CAO, want to stifle the prospect at someone being able to, number one, use their land in the manner in which they want to use it, generally speaking. Two, any economic growth that comes as a result of that. It's almost like we need to know more.
And I would note, presumably when we did this general plan revision in 1999, presumably we had, and I think it's the case, we had input from the community members down there, and it was their input that led to the A1 zoning. Is that accurate?
Well, I just came in on the tail end of that process, and so I can't really weigh in, but I do know that before that, there was an effort to draft a South County area plan that met with a lot of resistance. And, Iona's here, she probably knows more about that than I do. I think Mr. McCain was on the board at the time, but generally speaking, there's not been a clamoring for any change, in my experience here. I mean, there's been people that, like you, that wanted a few things like at the mark or whatever, but generally speaking, for the Hurlong area, haven't heard a word.
Well, I think the dynamics are, we're in the process of changing that stuff. And I do believe that we need to approach it carefully. But also, I just hate to stifle any kind of economy that, as mini storage, it definitely help clean up the area. I mean, instead of people junk in their yard, maybe they'll junk it into the storage wards. So,
I agree with Supervisor Pyle's comments that, it's a private landowner, and one of his, available options is to apply for a rezone, and, while there's people aren't here objecting to it, maybe, I know how it is, not everybody knows, probably the people don't even realize we're taking this up today, all the neighbors. So.
Well,
I
anybody within the area should have got
Yeah, I
notice, but.
understand, but, it's still, people don't really pay
In any
attention.
neighborhood.
I paid attention,
Joint
sir.
property,
I paid attention.
You're special.
I know the immediate neighbors probably are not aware of this, because they would have said something to me. They didn't have a problem with a mini storage per se, but
See, we've gone to great lengths not to talk about the resource for reasons already stated. That It could be anything.
I didn't do anything.
It's whatever might be in that zoning district, so it could be a headshot. That'd be a perfect example of something that's permissible.
that happened out there.
It did,
Right.
right at the corner.
But that's a business conducted within a building, and that would be perfectly acceptable.
And then people would be coming back and people would be saying, what were you thinking when you did it?
Now, how many public hearings does this for?
One.
Is this the one for this?
Yes.
type? Yeah. I think it'd be, in fairness to, I'm in support of the applicant,
Yeah.
but I think to be in support of also the community, we should, give every opportunity. I know some people are more tuned in than others to what goes on here, but I think, for the normal person,
That was shocking.
maybe give them another go-around.
And if indeed a neighbor doesn't know about this, a direct neighbor, they should, because we
I had a conversation with them, and I told them before the application came, I said, well, you know that these people are trying to put a mini storage in. He asked me, does it have a fence? I said, yeah. And he goes, good, I'll have to put up a fence. And that was the extent of it. I didn't, when this town center thing kind of popped in there, I don't know if he's aware of that. That's his immediate thing.
And if you wanted to be a devil's advocate, you could, and you were going into this with some experience, you would say mini storage because that's the most innocuous use in the district. But, like I say, it could be anything.
Is there any way we can table this for,
Yes, I think so.
and I definitely will contact the applicant if that's not stepping beyond my bounds.
Why don't we continue the public hearing until next week?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and I'll take, the applicant, I don't believe is here, obviously, so
No.
we'll take, while we have, we won't do any, final action today, but we'll go through some of the motions here, and
Sure.
take public comment and stuff. Okay, is there any other questions?
I was here. Susan, public comment out there.
We have a member from the public patiently waiting to make comments, so we'll call on you, Ms. Spencer.
Just for general information, this property was purchased on September 24th, 2009 by what looks to be shell companies, although Lawrence Marion's name does appear in those. I have 4 or 5 concerns here, or like to bring before the board in public comment. Is the planning department uses APN 139-06033. However, the environmental documents, and I made copies for you, have a different APN number. So that needs to be looked at. It has 131-090-40, which is not the parcel that the report speaks of. And number 2, on August 29th, 2014, Robert Tucker, and it is his email is in your packet. He's an engineer at the Water Resource Control, and he states that any ground disturbance that is greater than 1 acre needs to apply for a natural pollutant discharge elimination system. Sorry, Aaron. This is a general storm water permit, and this needs to be addressed if and when you approve this isolated little town center, because to date the owner has not applied for that permit. And I agree that if you go ahead and do this island, the owner isn't obligated to build a mini storage. They just aren't. They could, however, they are limited on the building because they're 2,100 feet from the airport. So that does limit the type of construction or business that he can put in there. I noticed that 4 acres of the southern portion of this parcel is within a restricted area. And you have those little maps with the X's on them. These maps. It's a little confusing because on the one designated safety area, which is under the airport area plan, is listed as an overflight zone, and the other half is the approach zone. So you might consider looking at that and considering that if this comes before the board again, because it restricts the usage even more, because the planes are going to be flying, right over there. And you're going to have this problem with Furlong also because of the approach zone, the landing and takeoff zones are going to be a problem for whoever buys the Furlong area, because you're even more restricted on the land going around the airport. Let's see. This parcel is within the designated safety area and directly in line with the airport approach area, and this is something that is a conflict, and you're gonna have to reconcile this, whether you approve this or not, because the owner knows about it. I mean, the owner knows that he's on the fly zone there, and there are, in the Furlong Airport area plan, it's very precise in what can be within those restricted areas. Also, I noticed in your documents that this parcel may have a Williamson Act contract or a conservancy contract in place. Has anybody verified that? It was listed, checked off as an issue on the reports that it has a Williamson contract on it. So that's another thing you might want to look into. And this is just a general comment, is that from now on, when this comes before, can we help someone to ask if there's a conflict of interest with any of you in taking this type of action, because any interest in it presents a conflict for you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that has questions? I'll just finish up the sort of following along. So, is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Would you like another go at it?
Oh, no, I'm not opposed to development out there. It just has to be done with full knowledge of what's happening.
Okay, thank you. Anybody to speak in favor? Okay, I think it seems to be the pleasure of the board to continue this.
Yeah. Yeah, at a time certain.
Same time?
Now we have 11 already, 11:15 and 11:30 already booked.
10:45. Okay, so it is.
All right, so, do we have a second? All right. Any other comments before we take action? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
I'd like, I'm sorry, can I make a comment? No, I'm just concerned that the neighbors aren't in full knowledge of what's going on there. And I have spoken to them, and they were in support of the mini stories, but all this other stuff thrown in there. I don't think it's right unless I know that they're aware.
That's kind of what my.
Yeah, that's,
They don't show that's their stuff.
yeah,
Should we motion?
I'll definitely be in contact.
Mr. Chairman, the clerk just advised me that 11:30 is open, so I'd like to do it at that time.
Okay. And I think that takes up everything except for the 1:30.
I think so.
Okay, so we'll recess and reconvene at 1:32.
I didn't get their number anymore. I think get their numbers. Contact.
I'm sorry.
Can you give me the numbers of the applicants so I can call them?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's probably in the packet, because we're applicating.
Other applications, that's where we would look.
All right. I looked through that thing.
It's confusing. I tried to put a contents up a little.
See you 1:30.
So page 7, it looks like.